Welcome to the Online Edge podcast, the only podcast dedicated to helping you navigate the Bermuda Triangle.
Hey, here we go. Okay, so hey, we've really been talking a lot about COVID and everything that's going on right now. You know, look, we're in a crazy time. I remember talking to my grandma who's 94 the other day, and she's been through so much in life. And she was talking about how even she at 94 has never seen anything like this in her entire life. And she's seen a ton. Like, think about all the things that have happened in the last 94 years. She's never seen anything like this. So there's a lot of people, right? Like, we just got the job listing out like yesterday about how many people are out of jobs now. And so we're seeing so many people trying to start their own businesses and really go into business for themselves because they're now unemployed and they're trying to figure out how do you put food on the table. And so let's talk about what are the steps that somebody just starting needs to take to get their business up off the ground from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, so this is kind of near and dear to our hearts for a number of reasons. We've both started businesses and that kind of stuff. So it's, there's so many things to think about. If we did one podcast on this, it'd be 6 hours long. So we're going to make this a bit of a series so that we can make sure that we're talking to both sets of our audience. We have a lot of business owners in our audience, but we also have people who are watching that are wanting to start a business. And so we wanted to most of the podcasts are aimed directly at business owners. We thought, hey, what if we take a series and aim it towards people who are looking to maybe start a side business or start a business that's going to be their main source of income. And so that's what this is all about. So this is not going to be a all-inclusive, intensive, right this second on this, but we are going to make this a series so that you can, watching this through is going to give you a really good idea of what to think about in marketing when you're starting a business.
And if there's there's already some things that we've covered that you can hit right now. We've already talked all about SEO. If you want to find that video, you can look somewhere on the screen. I don't know if it's going to be right here, up on the top, somewhere. There will be a link to the video where you can check out everything you need to know about SEO and what to do with that. But let's just talk, what would be, if you're starting from scratch today, what is the first thing you touch? Because there are a billion things that come to mind for marketing, like door hangers, Facebook, Instagram, websites, SEO, pay-per-click.
We're going to go all the way back to the absolute beginning before you even can think about that stuff.
Okay, what is that?
The first thing that you got to think about is the branding.
Okay.
So we need a name. We need to sit down and say, who as a company do we want to be? Who are the people that we want to serve? And we want to sit down and with a name, with the people that we want to serve, with understanding who our customer base is going to be, create a brand around that.
So we probably just want to spend the whole podcast on this
talking about
honestly, I think
branding.
There's so much here we can spend the whole podcast on this.
Easily.
So okay, what does that look like?
I have a good friend of mine who is who's a brand manager who serves more nonprofits than anybody else in the world.
Okay.
Fortune 500 companies. He's got quite the resume, and he does a lot of talking. He's one of probably the world's foremost thinker on brand. And he uses this phrase when he's talking about brand. Brand's not a logo. It's not a color palette. It's not a name. A brand is a promise.
Ooh.
So what we're saying is that this brand, its promise, not a mission statement necessarily, but a promise. This is who we are going to be. So Starbucks has a promise. Very few people ever walked into a Starbucks that smells bad, the music's too loud, and the people are rude. Mm-hmm. Disney has one of the most consistent promises on the planet. A couple of years back, we took our kids to Disney World, and the consistency from the custodians to the managers at the hotel to the people managing the rides, unbelievable. They have a promise that they have disseminated down. My first job, said it before on the podcast, 15 years old, started working at Chick-fil-A, helped to grand open at Chick-fil-A. First job was an amazing opportunity. Chick-fil-A's got one of the best promises in the world. You've probably never run into a rude employee at Chick-fil-A. You've probably never had very rarely do you have a situation where something's wrong. If it is wrong, they're going to make it right real dang quick.
Yeah.
You probably never set in line for 30 minutes waiting for an order at Chick-fil-A. Happen at many other fast food places, not there. Because they are unbelievably consistent at their promise. One of their promises, never on Sunday. Unbelievably consistent.
Doesn't matter the
promise.
situation.
Exactly right. So you've got to decide as a business owner what your promise is going to be to your customers.
And, those are actually some really good examples of large corporations that
Correct.
have real, and those are always good people to look up to because they,
Correct.
one, have a huge budget. They can do a whole bunch of stuff and they're setting the groundwork for everybody else. But I wanted to mention this because I think it's really interesting to look at from a small business standpoint is City Turf. They're a lawn care company located here in Collin County. Owner is Jonathan Potoshnik. Started this company a while back, and they've actually become really, really large. And it's because I think one of the main reasons is because they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, where he has a 2-minute video talking all about what they're going to do for you as the client on the homepage of the website. And so it stands out from every other lawn care company because nobody really talks about that stuff. And he says, whoa. It's not about us. Let me talk about you and what our promise to you is going to be if you hire us.
Wow.
And it's really quite compelling.
We have a client who their tagline is local, honest, dependable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And one of the things that they do with that local side of stuff, they're in an industry that travels a lot to do stuff, and it's not always good when they do that because it's kind of a dishonest, like fly in, fly out, and then aren't held responsible for their work type thing. They have committed to being local. So if something happens where they could travel for their business and make a little bit of extra money, they don't do it because that's not part of their promise. Their promise is to serve their local neighbors. And in doing so, in being local, they're also fulfilling the honest side of stuff because they've promised not to do that, and they're also fulfilling the dependable side of stuff because if they went somewhere else and something went wrong, they're not still there after the fact to fix it. So they're not able to uphold that promise if they're not local. They're not able to uphold the promise of dependable. So therefore they do that. So little things like that, you've got to decide what that is. You've got to decide what's burning inside of you of why do we need another whatever? If you're not inventing something brand new, why do we need another lawn care company? Why do we need another whatever? And whatever your answer to that is probably is going to give you some indications as to what your promise should be.
And honestly, actually, one of the things I did with the lawn care company that I started and built and then eventually sold was I went to the people that were closest to me and I asked them pointed questions as far as, hey, what do you dislike about the lawn care company that you currently have?
Right.
If you could have a perfect situation, you could hire a company that was perfect. What are the things that you would want from them? And the consistent answers that I was getting is what I started marketing. Hey, we're never going to leave your gates open because we hate our dogs getting out and then we have to chase our dogs out. We hate the fact that we never know how much our invoice is and we have to go and chase the company to just pay them. So we're going to have consistent billing. We hate the fact that when we call the company, they never answer and their voicemail is always full. So we hired somebody to answer the phone and to respond to emails within 5 to 10 minutes of the person sending the email. Those are just the top 3 things, right? We hated the fact I got this all the time. We hate the fact that the company that we've hired never shows up on the same day and I never know when to unlock the gates so that they can mow.
Wow.
So those are just a few of the things that I was getting on a consistent basis. So if you're thinking about starting something or you've just started something, who are the people that you can reach out to that are already using that service, that are already paying for somebody to perform that or whatever? They're already spending money in that space, and go to them and say, hey, what would you like to get from this provider that you're not currently getting? And then how do I change that and do that? And then I start spending marketing money, or I start making my brand around everything they're not getting. Because I guarantee if you get that same answer from 5 or 6 people, there's a lot of other people that wish they had the same thing.
My friend John would say the next thing to think about after the promise is the affiliation. So brand affiliation is not something that just he talks about. That's a common branding concept. But affiliation asks this question. 2 people walking down a street, one of them holding a Walmart bag, one of them holding a Target bag. Those bags say something about them.
Yep.
If you're holding a Whole Foods bag or you're holding a Kroger bag, those bags say something about you.
100%.
And so what you've got to say is, what club do people join when they decide to do business with you? So you're niching a little bit. You're drilling in a little bit more. If you are, lawn care business is such a great example of this. So there are people out there who are just going to mow your lawn and leave.
Yep.
And there's people out there who are going to do the extra touches, who are going to walk it over one more time and make sure that the edging was done just right. There are companies out there that don't offer edging, and there are companies out there that not just offer it, but are going to very much make sure it's done not just right, but perfectly.
Yeah.
And so,
that are spending the money on insurance and making sure that your stuff is protected. So
absolutely.
if they throw a rock through the window, which is going to happen eventually, gets replaced. I mean, you just have to decide, do I want to have to deal with the hassle of tracking down somebody that's a pay by cash under the mat? It's just whatever that situation is.
And the answer is, some people watching, the answer to that question would be,
I'll do that all day.
I'd rather do that.
100%. There's a market for that.
Right. Will I save $5? Then yes.
Yeah.
Whatever. And by the way,
and whatever
so be that. That's your brand affiliation at that point.
Yeah.
What you don't want to do is try to be like, we're serving everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
You're not serving everybody.
100%.
You have to be okay with looking at somebody and saying, "Oh, okay, no problem," and walking away knowing this isn't my customer base. This isn't my brand affiliation.
Yep. So here's actually one thing that I took from a very successful business owner that I was getting advice from, a mentor way back when I first started, and it was talking about business cards, right? So here's a tip right here for anybody that's going into the service space is, so we're going to take lawn care, for example, because that's what I know.
Yeah, sure.
And so what do you think when you get a business card? You can name this off every time you've gotten one on the door. It says so-and-so's lawn care, and you flip it over, and it says mowing, edging, weed eating, mulching, flowers, blah, blah, blah. So does everybody else. So he said, why would you do that? Because you've thrown yourself in the pit of every single other person. On the back of it, put on there what the customer is going to get. So I created 100% satisfaction guarantee, and I made it into about 4 or 5 sentences, and I put it on the back of the card. And so it was no longer, oh yeah, we do mulching. We're a lawn care company. Of course we're going to mow. Of course we're going to edge. Of course we're going to weed eat. And of course we're going to blow. But what is it that we're promising you when you hire us versus every other guy that's down the street? And we put that on the back of the card. So when I handed it to somebody, immediately they would flip it over and they would read it. And then I would get a reaction of, oh,
right,
that's interesting. And then if they had a question, of course they would ask it, hey, do you edge too? Of course we edge. But it was that one more thing that maybe I didn't even have to say it out of my mouth. They were reading it on the card. And
most people probably didn't even ask, do you edge? Because the commitment to quality and to 100%. Their satisfaction on there said
100%.
Yeah, of course we do. Of course we do.
Yep.
So it to a certain degree, that promise took out a bunch of the practical questions because the promise dictated the quality.
And I think the place that people get stuck in a lot of these situations is that they get in the place of looking at everybody else's stuff, and they build something on whatever platform it is, whether it's business cards, door hangers, Facebook, Instagram. They're putting out the same content as everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so it's so easy to look at a business card and go, okay, that's exactly what I need to do. Mowing, edging, weed eating, blowing, such and such lawn care. Boom, print it and get it done.
I'm going to give you guys, we're going to close out this one with an exercise for you to go and do right now. If you've launched a business already, or if you are dreaming about launching one, either way, you can do this exercise. Get a couple people together, whether the team is your paid team, maybe you've got it, maybe you're able to launch like that, and that's amazing if you can, or maybe it's you and your family. But get some trusted people together who know you, who have an idea of the vision that you have for this thing, and put up a piece of paper behind you. I've done this before, writing on with a dry erase marker on a window. However you got to do this. And take the time to put up words, adjectives that you would use to describe who you want your business to be. So for one example I gave, honest, local, honest, dependable would have been some of those words that would have gotten put up there. Put up a bunch of them. Maybe it ends up being 100. I've seen it a couple hundred words up there. And then start narrowing them down. Go to the first one. Maybe the first one is affordable. Maybe that's the brand affiliation that you want to go with there. So maybe somebody else said cheap and somebody else said cost effective and that sort of thing. So you're going to go and say, okay, which one of these do we actually want to use, and start crossing off synonyms where you land on one. Okay, affordable is the one that we want to use. Maybe another one is trustworthy. Well, maybe you said honest, and maybe you said a couple of other things up there that would be like, that's pretty much like trustworthy. And you go through and you mark those off until you get to the one that resonates with you, that you can like deliver this. This is who we are. And that's another one. And maybe you go through the rest of them, and it's you get to all these words and you cross them off. And when you've got 3 to 5, now all of a sudden you've got some words that you can go and run with. Yeah. You've got a filter to put your brand through. Yep. And say, if it's not affordable, then we don't do it, because this is who we are as a brand. Yep. And if it's not, and maybe it's literally the opposite, by the way. Mercedes-Benz probably doesn't need to do anything affordable. It's not their brand.
It's not their market. Yeah, right. They're not talking.
Cadillac came out with a super affordable car a couple of years ago. It was a huge flop because it wasn't their brand. That's not why you people bought a Cadillac. So, whatever it is, affordable, expensive, middle of the road, whatever it is, stay true to that brand and run everything through those filters. Everything. Hey, this doesn't speak of commitment. Committed's one of our words. Then we don't do this. Yeah. And it serves as a filter for your brand to help you stay consistent as a brand. And if you can stay consistent as a brand, then you'll win as a brand. Because at the end of the day, that's what a promise is. A promise is a commitment kept consistently over time. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be back next Thursday with a brand new podcast. We'll see you guys then.